Millions of people read Atomic Habits, implement it carefully, and still burn out or plateau. The book isn't wrong. The problem is that high achievers misread what it's actually for. This isn't a laziness problem. Most of the people who struggle with this book are doing too much, not too little. They are applying a system built for consistency to a life that runs on intensity. And those two things are not the same thing. There are 3 specific ways ambitious people take genuinely good habit advice and turn it into another source of pressure. We are going through all 3, and by the end you will have a clearer picture of how to actually use this book if you are someone who operates at a high level. High achievers do not just build habits, they turn them into scorecards. Take the never miss twice rule from Atomic Habits. It is solid advice for most people. Miss a day, do not let it become 2, get back on track. The idea is to protect momentum without demanding perfection. For someone who struggles with consistency, that framing is genuinely useful. But hand that rule to a founder or a senior executive and something different happens. Never miss twice becomes a zero tolerance policy. Missing once is already a problem. Missing twice is treated as a character flaw. The rule that was designed to reduce pressure quietly becomes a new performance standard, and now they manage their habits the same way they manage their quarterly numbers. Picture someone tracking 11 habits daily: wake time, hydration, journaling, exercise, reading, cold exposure, supplements, meditation, and focus blocks. By 9 in the morning, one thing has slipped because of an early client call, and they already feel like they're behind. The day hasn't started, and the scorecard is already in the red. Streaks measure continuity. They don't measure output, quality, or whether the work that actually matters got done. A broken streak doesn't mean a broken system. But when you're wired for achievement, the emotional weight of a missed checkbox is wildly disproportionate to its actual impact. That's where the real damage happens. It's not the missed habit, it's the shame spiral that follows. One missed day triggers a cascade of self-judgment that drains more mental energy than the habit itself would have produced. You spend the rest of the morning either trying to compensate or quietly writing off the whole day, and neither response moves anything forward. What gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed eventually gets weaponized by the high achiever against themselves. Streaks are a tool. They work until they don't, and for people who tie their identity to performance, they stop working fast. The streak obsession is one symptom. The deeper problem sits underneath it, and it's about how high achievers approach the entire system from the start. When people read about habit stacking, most think add 1 or 2 anchors to an existing routine. A high achiever reads the same chapter and builds a 17-step morning protocol before the week is out. The discipline is real, the effort is real. But what they are actually optimizing for is the feeling of control, not results. There is a difference, and it matters more than most people want to admit. This is where motion gets confused with meaningful progress. A perfectly structured habit system that does not directly support your most important work is productive procrastination with better branding. You can fill every hour of a morning with optimized behavior and still avoid the one thing that actually moves the needle. Cal Newport draws a useful distinction between protecting the conditions for focused work and filling your schedule with activity that feels productive. Habits are supposed to reduce friction and preserve cognitive energy for the work that counts. But when the habit system itself consumes the time and energy meant for that work, the whole thing runs backwards. You've built a machine that burns the fuel it was supposed to save. The question worth sitting with is simple. Which 1 or 2 behaviors, done consistently, actually change your outcomes? Not which habits signal discipline, not which routines look impressive, but which ones directly protect your attention, your energy, or your ability to do the work that matters most. Everything outside of that is noise dressed up as optimization. The other problem is fragility. A 12-step morning routine works beautifully under ideal conditions. Then you travel, or a deadline hits, or you're sick for 4 days, and the whole architecture collapses. It was built for a controlled environment, not for real life. Real life includes chaos by default, and a system that can't absorb disruption isn't really a system. It's a performance that requires a perfect stage. Even when high achievers manage to build the right habits, there is a third mistake that tends to be the most invisible and the most damaging of all three. The third mistake is the hardest to catch because it does not look like a mistake. It looks like accountability. High achievers already carry a high internal standard everywhere they go. That's not a flaw. It's part of what drives the results. But when you layer a habit tracking system on top of that, you are not adding structure. You are adding a daily audit. Audits produce findings, and for perfectionists, those findings almost always come back negative. Every missed habit becomes a data point. Data points accumulate into a story. Skip your reading block twice in a row, and it is not just 2 missed sessions. It is confirmation that you are not as disciplined as you should be, that you are slipping, that the version of yourself you are trying to build is still out of reach. The habit system becomes a mirror that only reflects what is broken. This is the direct opposite of what the book actually argues. The framework in Atomic Habits puts identity first. The idea is that behavior follows from who you believe yourself to be. You act like a healthy person because you have decided you are someone who takes care of themselves, not because a tracker caught you missing a workout. The habit is supposed to reinforce the identity, not sit in judgment of it. And if you want to read Atomic Habits for yourself, I have linked it at the top of the description. That is an affiliate link, which means I may earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. When high achievers flip that around and let the tracker define the verdict on their identity, the system corrodes from the inside. You are no longer building, you are defending. Every day starts with a deficit you need to close rather than a baseline you are building from. That is an exhausting way to run a life, and it is not what the book was designed to do. The fix is not softer standards. Lowering the bar will not stick, and it is not the point. The answer is smarter design. Every habit in your system needs 2 versions, the full version for normal days and a minimum viable version for hard ones. Not giving up, scaling down. A 30-minute run becomes a 10-minute walk. A full writing session becomes 3 paragraphs. The behavior still happens, the identity stays intact, and the system does not snap under pressure. Recovery is not a failure state. It is a design requirement. Any system that only functions under ideal conditions was never really a system to begin with. If your habits collapse the moment life gets complicated, the problem is not your willpower, it is your architecture. So here's the actual reframe. Habits are not a performance goal, they are an operating system. You do not win at an operating system, you run on it. The goal is that it works quietly in the background, reduces the decisions you have to make, and keeps the conditions for your real work protected. Nothing more. Start with subtraction. Before adding anything new, identify one source of friction that is burning cognitive energy every day and remove it. A cluttered workspace, a notification that interrupts your best work hours, a morning routine with too many steps to execute under pressure. Friction removal does more for consistency than any new habit you could add, because it lowers the cost of showing up in the first place. From there, cut to 1 or 2 habits that directly support your actual outcomes. Not habits that signal discipline to yourself or anyone else, but habits that protect your attention, your energy, and your capacity to recover. Sleep before supplementation. Focus blocks before journaling streaks. The fundamentals before the optimizations. Focus on outcomes, not optics. Stop tracking streaks that produce pressure without producing results. If a streak makes you anxious rather than grounded, it is working against you. Track outcomes instead. Did the work move forward? Did you recover? Did you protect the time that matters most? Then build your minimum viable version of each habit so the system has somewhere to go on hard days. 1 week, 1 habit, 1 friction removed, 1 scaled down version ready for when things fall apart. That is the reset. It is not exciting, but a system that holds under pressure is worth more than one that looks perfect on a calm Tuesday. High achievers do not need more discipline. They need systems designed for sustainability, not performance theater. We have talked a lot about how the wrong system burns energy instead of protecting it. The book that actually goes deepest on where your energy should go and why most people waste it on the wrong priorities is The One Thing. Click the video on the screen now to watch our take on that video next. It will change how you decide what deserves a habit in the first place.